Very good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for coming into our weekly research essentials session. We had a session yesterday, a replacement session from the Friday session on supervision for higher graduate students. So today's session, we're going to continue with our 8th session on Mendeley, introducing to Mendeley and the APA 7th edition. As you may be aware, Mendeley will help you to organize the information and resources you use for your research, okay, in all your publications. It allows you to access them wherever you are and read them on whatever device you have, and also annotate document and cite as you wish with the document. So this is an important application that I think you should know how to use, how to open an account in Mendeley, and how do you utilize this to the maximum. We're also going to briefly go through some of the major changes that have taken place in the 7th edition of the APA as part of our session today. So for today's session, it's going to be facilitated by Ms. Virginia Ballance. This is really her forte. And I'm going to hand over the session now to Ms. Ballance so she's able to share her screen and take over the presentation today. Over to you, Ms. Ballance.
Thank you, Vic, and thank you everybody for joining us. Today, I'm going to speak about Mendeley and APA. As for Mendeley, I'm sure most of you have stacks of PDFs in your office, printouts of journal articles, newspaper articles, conference proceedings, etc. And on your computer, dozens of PDFs with obscure file names. So when you are looking for something that you know you have a hard time finding it. At least that happens to me, I'll admit it. But it is truly a problem these days with the proliferation of resources that you can print and download. So how to manage it all? You need a reference management system. And there are many on the market. The one we decided to use at the university is Mendeley, but it's not the only one. Mendeley is a free reference management software, and it has an added benefit of also being an academic social network. Just a few words about the background to Mendeley. It was first built up by a graduate student, a couple graduate students, to manage books and book chapters and information about, journal articles, etc. Then it got taken over by Elsevier, the publisher, and they have added many upgrades and new features. As Dr. Vic said, it runs on many platforms and devices. So you can have a version on your laptop, on your desktop, laptop, and on a mobile device. So you have access to all these PDFs and articles that you want to read from wherever, whenever. So it's a free reference management software for academics. It works on many platforms and uses all the major browsers. How does it help? You store all your PDFs in the cloud, so then you can retrieve them from wherever, whenever. The first step is to create a Mendeley account. Simple thing to do. It takes about 3 seconds. You download the Mendeley Desktop version onto your main computer. And this version has the most complete set of features. It allows you then to build and maintain your personal library of materials. That means anything, journal articles, books, book chapters, conference proceedings, website, newspaper articles, anything you use for your research. The 3-column structure, which you see on this screen, is standard across all versions of the application. The left-hand column are the filtering options. So you have folders, which will soon be renamed collections, groups of people you collaborate with, and subsets of various documents, including different kinds of tags that you apply to each document. The middle column lists each individual reference, and across it, the middle column, you can sort by whatever key you wish, by author, by title, by year of publication, and so on. And then on the right side, depending on which item is highlighted in the middle, the details are displayed on the right-hand column. And on the right-hand column is where you would edit the details about the item which you're viewing. The web version is the view you would have via your web browser. You need to log into your Mendeley account in order to access it. You have to download the web version on your device as well, the app for that. It has a similar layout to the desktop version, though it's optimized for a web browser. So it also has 3 columns. On the left, filters. The middle are the contents of your, what they call Mendeley library. And on the right, the details of the selected item that you're looking at. So after that brief tour, you're probably wondering, okay, I downloaded Mendeley on my computer. Now, how do I build up my library of references, all the documents that I have on my computer or the stack of articles I have on my desk? I think there are 10 ways to do it. The first thing is you can open the file menu on your computer and select individual PDFs, and you just drag them and drop them into the middle column. Bingo, just like that. Mendeley will extract the metadata from the file if it is there. So in other words, it pulls out the name of the author, the title, the journal, the volume, the date, the pagination, the abstract, whatever information is embedded in the document. Now that would have been put there by the journal publisher in the beginning. It's stuff we don't even see. It's hidden metadata in documents. So that's how Mendeley finds the information. If it's not there, then it's quite possible that you have to edit the document in your Mendeley library and add that information. The second way is if you've been saving documents in a folder, you can actually drag the entire folder over to your Mendeley application, and it will extract every file out of the folder and put it in your library. The third way is a really interesting thing they've done. It's called a watch folder. So you create a folder on your computer, and when you find an article which is useful, you just plop it in the watch folder. And then when you open Mendeley, you've set up a little program for it to know where to go for the watch folder, and it will pull the records over into your Mendeley library. Why is this interesting? It's because you've probably noted that many times when you download a PDF from a database or off of Google Scholar, whatever, the file name may be A123456, which is totally meaningless. And with the watch folder, Mendeley will extract the author and title and put it in the file name instead, making it a more meaningful file name for you. So that's a neat thing that it does. The fourth way is to basically enter the document manually. So it will, you say add a file, and it will say manually yes. It gives the option of entering manually. You do that, you fill in the blanks. field by field. Equally, under the manual method of entering, if you have a stack of papers on your desk, you can say enter manually and just scroll down to the DOI field in the manual template and type in the DOI. And then Mendeley will go off into the internet and find the metadata for that record and put it in. So you don't have to type anything except the DOI. That's pretty cool too. Another way is to import an entire library from another competing reference manager. Let's say you already have an EndNote or a RefWorks library of documents that you want to move over to Mendeley. You can do it simply by exporting from the other reference manager straight into the Mendeley reference manager. Another way is to download files from databases and save them in what is called RIS format and upload them into Mendeley using the file menu or via the watch file on your computer. Another way is to use the web importer. The web importer is a bookmarklet which you need to download, and it sits on top of your browser. So if you are on a web page and you think that you'd like to save it, or you've opened a journal article and you think you'd like to save it to your Mendeley library, you just simply click on the little bookmarklet. It's the red M that you see on the left-hand side of the screen. And you click on it, and Mendeley will detect any reference materials on that page and then download it into you approve it, and you download it into, you save it onto your Mendeley library. Another method, this is number 9, is to use Mendeley Suggest, which is a research catalog of all papers in everybody's Mendeley libraries. They don't reflect back to a particular library. It's just a big pot of references that come out of everybody's library without any reference back to a particular person. And you can search that library and see if there's anything that's useful. And finally, some research article databases, such as Scopus, allow you to export references directly into Mendeley. There will be a button on the search page that says export, and you just click that, and magically your reference is put into Mendeley. The Mendeley Web Importer is really very easy, and it's such a wonderful way to populate your library. You just search, find, hit the button, in it goes, and you can edit the items that you download if you need to. Now, because the web version and the desktop version are sort of separate, you need to update across all your devices. So you need to use the synchronize button regularly on the desktop and on the web version. The desktop will sync automatically when you open it. But the Mendeley is being updated, and the desktop and web Mendeley web versions will be merged into a new version called Mendeley Reference Manager. And so syncing will be a thing of the past. So it's just a change which is in the offing in the next few months. You can actually download the Mendeley Reference Manager, the new version, which is in a trial mode at the moment. But the current setup is the first thing which appears when you go to download the Mendeley onto your computer. So organizing And managing your library is a bit of work. It's a bit like being your own librarian. It's fairly intuitive. As I say, the left-hand panel gives you options for filtering. The default is all documents as highlighted, everything, and then it appears also in the middle column that all documents are now in your view and accessible. You can filter by items that were recently added, recently read, items that are your favorites, to which you put a star. You just click on the side and highlight a star, or items which you need to review. In other words, you've just added them, you just need to check that the information is correct and maybe add your own tags. As I said earlier, in the middle column, you can sort by author, by title, by year of publication. When you read an item, you can mark them read or unread. There's a dot next to each title, each item. You can click on and off, just hover over and click. When you initially add something to your library, it defaults as unread, and you just toggle it on and off as you want. If something is a favorite article, you can toggle on a star to mark them as a favorite. Another way to manage your references is to create folders. I believe they will be renamed collections in the new release of Mendeley. You basically drag and drop references into folders, which can be topic, subject, or for classes or whatever. Remember, all documents remain in all documents, whether they appear in a folder or not. And items can appear in multiple folders or collections. So you don't lose something because you hid it in a folder. They're always going to appear in all documents. And then if you want to create subsets by putting them in a folder, it makes it more convenient for you. One of the strong points about Mendeley is that it has a very powerful search tool. You can search your own library by terms, and then it also searches through the PDFs in the library. So if you have a particular thing you're looking for, you just put the keyword in the search box and hit enter, and it will retrieve anything in your library with that term. But if you have selected a particular folder, then it will only search within that folder. Now watch out for that. I've been many times tripped up thinking, I'm sure there was an article on a particular topic in this library, and then I realize I'm searching through a folder rather than the entire library, so always watch for that. As well as putting your documents into folders, you can classify them by using tags. You can use as many tags as you wish. They're user defined. Think about Instagram, where you put a tag on a picture. It's the same thing here. They're user defined. It's not like a library subject heading. So you put as many as you want for whatever you want. And then you can search by tags. So the choice is yours, whether you use tags or hierarchical folders. The feeling is that tagging is more flexible because it's user defined and you can use however many terms as you want, whereas folders get large and may have to be split. So it's really a personal preference whether you use tags or folders to organize your library when it gets very large. Tagging, they say, is easier to get started with and easier to maintain. So that's it. Duplicates will creep into your library. When you're on the desktop, you can click for search for duplicates on the tools menu. So that helps keep your library neat and clean. And I think you can actually merge two items so that you get the best of both worlds. One of the great features of Mendeley is the PDF viewer. It allows you to open as many PDFs, to highlight and annotate them. As you see on the slide, when you open it, you read the PDF, and then you have on the right, you can write notes in a notes pop-out column. Or you can actually put a sticky note on the PDF. You can highlight things and then add a sticky note. One of the best features about using a reference manager is that when you are writing, you can automatically insert a properly formatted citation and generate a bibliography or reference list in a chosen reference style, and that can be changed if you need to. So the first step in order to use Mendeley is as a citation product is to install what is called the Citation plugin into your word processor, and it works with MS Word and LibreOffice. You need to download that off of Mendeley. So there are three things to download: Mendeley Desktop, the Web Importer bookmarklet, and then the Citation plugin. How it works is that you are typing along, you place the cursor where the citation is to be inserted, you press the Insert Citation button on the Mendeley toolbar. In the background, I should have said Mendeley Desktop needs to be open. You find the reference that you want to insert, click to select it, and then OK, pop, it goes into your document. If you have multiple, you can merge them. And once you finish adding citations, you can generate your reference list or bibliography. You position the cursor where you want the list to appear and press Insert Bibliography, and it's done. And it is done in the citation format that you choose. So there are over 1,600 apparently. The major ones like APA, and then even others which are very journal specific. So you just choose the appropriate one from the drop-down menu, and away you go. In addition to being a reference manager and citation bibliography creator, Mendeley is also a social media, academic social media platform, which allows collaboration. You do this via Mendeley groups. There are three kinds of groups. There are private groups, which are not visible to everybody else, where membership is controlled. There's the invite-only group, which is visible to the world, but membership is controlled. And then open groups, which are publicly visible. You could use a private group for a research team or a class to share PDFs. And when you share a PDF through a private group, the highlights and annotations on PDFs are available to all members of the group. And multiple people can comment on a PDF, and each person would be assigned a different color. And you would be alerted to any changes via an email in the news feed. Public groups can be searched and you can join them. It's a nice way to connect with other Mendeley users who are active in your field. You might find someone to collaborate with or who might share resources. If you can't find a PDF, you could go straight to the author through Mendeley and ask. Mendeley also allows you to create a research profile, which is a good way to promote your research, your interests, and your publications, and share your work with others. And you can add your publications to your Mendeley library. As you see on the left, there's a folder just for my publications, and so you can track your published research. It's a sub-collection. So Mendeley can also be used to find new research through its catalog. You can get statistics on the usage of your research, which appears in the catalog. You can also use Mendeley to find jobs. You can upload your CV on Mendeley, and people might, and it will match you with positions that are open. And it also has funding opportunities listed, so you can search their funding database. I would recommend that you go to their website. They have lots and lots of help guides on how to use it, how to figure out little problems that you're having. It's fully integrated and very well done, and it can save you a lot of time and effort looking for things which you know you have if you put them into the library. So let me just stop sharing this and upload my APA. Am I doing this right? Is this on?
No, it's not on yet.
It's not, okay. Let me just end this one.
You end the other one first. And then share this new screen. Unshare that first. Okay.
Oh, stop share.
Okay, we got it. Oh, we got that already.
All right.
It disappeared.
Is this one?
No,
it's up?
No, it has gone again.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Click the share screen icon again.
Share screen. And choose this one. Is it up?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. So APA, this little presentation is going to be a mix of basics about APA. So essentially a little bit of a review, but I want to highlight the most important changes that have appeared in the new edition of APA that was published in October 2019. So what is APA style? It is a citation and referencing style used to write and format manuscripts in the social sciences particularly, but it also includes nursing. The APA gives guidance on writing style, formatting the paper, how to do in-text citations, and format references. In October 2019, a new edition was published with lots of new features and updates. In particular, it's in color. That's a big change. And the different sections are color coded, so it's easy to flip to the section you're looking for. It has lots and lots and lots of examples of various kinds for every kind of material that you might use in academic writing. Rules have been simplified somewhat and streamlined. In particular, there are special guidelines for student papers. There is new guidance on citing and referencing websites, blogs, social media. There are new guidelines also on the use of inclusive and bias-free language. So in the new edition, there's the APA differentiates between a professional paper and a student paper. And for both of these, a sample paper is included in the manual. So I'm just going to go through some of the notable changes. There's a lot more flexibility regarding fonts. Options include and Calibri, Arial, etc. Effectively, you're looking for a font that is legible on paper and online. And it should be in a size that's legible. If a professor's reading multiple papers from classes, they don't want to have a font that's very hard on the eyes. The title page for student papers has changed insofar that they've given very specific layout for the title page. It's cleaner and simpler, and no more of this submitted in partial fulfillment of whatever. It's simply, you put the page number on the top right-hand corner of the page. The title is 3 or 4 lines down from the top, centered, bold, in title case. In other words, you capitalize all major words. You list each author one by one on one line, separated names by commas. Then you include the name of the department and the college or university. So you put Nursing and Allied Health Professions, University of Bahamas. You provide the course number and followed by a colon and the course name, and give the name of the instructor and give the due date for the paper. So here's an example. Very simple, very spare, no pictures. The running head appears on the top, within the top margin of every page of the paper, but student papers are not required anymore to have a running head unless the instructor tells you otherwise. You no longer put the word running head. The running head is required, however, for professional papers. So the page header would consist of the running head and the page number, but not the word running head like it used to. But it's optional for students, and unless a professor requires it, you don't have to. Abstracts are now optional for student papers. It's the professor's choice whether to include them or not. They are to be at a maximum of 250 words. Abstract is on its own page, and APA suggests there are 2 kinds of abstracts you could use: a 1-paragraph abstract or a structured abstract with each section of the paper written out: purpose, 1 sentence; methods, 1 sentence; results, 1 sentence; conclusions, 1 sentence. Headings within the paper have been simplified, particularly levels 4 and 5. This is the heading structure is in the manual and it's on the APA website, so I needn't go into that in any detail. Regarding style, only a couple changes. The big one is only 1 space after a period at the end of a sentence. There used to be 2 spaces, and that was a hangover from days of manual typewriting. Now with computers, text is sort of justified. So 2 spaces following a period would create a big gap if you write justified a paragraph. So, and the other one, you use double quotation marks to refer to linguistic examples instead of italics. And the example also leads to another APA change. APA now endorses the use of the singular pronoun they. So no longer italics use quotes for linguistic examples. Many students think APA is only for formatting bibliographies and in-text citations. But the new edition has made citing of sources, particularly online sources, easier by providing oodles and oodles of examples, or what they call models. So a few tips on how to use it. APA, first, what kind of source is it? A book, a journal article, a web page? Then find a sample in the manual or on their website that is similar to the type of source you're using, and then just mirror the sample, ensuring that all elements are included. Although some databases and reference managers and word processors can produce what they call a formatted reference for you, they're rarely perfect, and will need to be edited or corrected. That's why you need to know how to use APA and how to find the answers in the manual. That's why, because a computer doesn't have a brain and will just take whatever data it can find and create a reference, and it might be wrong. So for in-text citations, APA uses what is called the author date method. What you cite in text must appear on the reference list, and what is on the reference list must be cited in the text. That's a cardinal rule of APA, and it's a reminder. So an in-text citation appears in the body of the paper or in a table, figure, footnote, or appendix, and briefly identifies the cited work by its author and the date of publication. And there are two types, a narrative and a parenthetical. A parenthetical citation includes the author's last name and year of publication separated by a comma in parentheses at the end of the sentence. So in my example, I've written a sentence and then in parentheses at the end, Saunders, comma, 2015. A narrative citation includes the author's name directly in the sentence with the year of publication directly following the author's name. So Saunders, 2015, suggests blah, blah, blah. When you quote, however, directly from a source, you must put in the author's name, the date of publication, and a page number. So in a parenthetical citation with a quote, you see, I have opened the quote, no period at the end of the quote, and then put the name of the author, date, and page. And in narrative, it's a similar way. Saunders, 2019, proposes blah, 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 page 65. It's good to have in your back pocket a lot of signal phrases or verbs, such as acknowledge, contended, maintain, responded, whatever, to help ease your way into making good quotes. A big change in APA 7th edition is that citing in text is way simpler. One author, surname, year. Two authors. In a narrative, as part of the sentence, you join the names with an and. If it's parenthetical, you use an ampersand. But if it's three or more, et al. There used to be a table of how many names, and no, it was just such a headache. This is way simpler. 1, 2, 3, et al. And if you have multiple sources in the same parentheses, they are put in alphabetical order to ease the reader's ability to find the complete reference in your reference list. A few words about your reference list. It should start on a new page. The heading is centered in bold in title case at the top of the page. References are formatted using hanging indentation. So they're anchored to the left margin with a hanging indent of an inch. They should be double spaced. They should be in alphabetical order. Sometimes people get confused about this alphabetical order and go through each of the entries and alphabetize the names of the authors in the entry. No, author's name appear in the order in which they appear on the published paper or book. You don't change that. But that is one little confusion that students have when you say entry should be in alphabetical order. Basic rules, you invert the author's names, last name followed by initials. If more than one author, you use ampersand between the names. Capitalization on reference lists is very specific. You only capitalize the first letter of the first word of a title and subtitle. So the first word after a colon or dash in the title, and proper nouns. Journal articles on a reference list, you capitalize all major words in journal titles, in the journal names, but you do not italicize, underline, or put quotes around the journal article title. A big change in APA 7th edition, every journal article must have a DOI, a digital object identifier, and it must be hyperlinked. If there is no DOI, check the journal website. Lots of journals have gone back and retrospectively assigned DOIs for every article in their collections, or you use a URL, or you can use a permanent link, a permalink found on a journal database such as JSTOR or EBSCO. Another big change, you no longer precede a URL with a retrieve from statement, unless, and the date of retrieval was given up after the 5th edition, but seems to hang around a little bit. Unless a retrieval date is required, like something which changes a lot, then you would put the date. And now you would include the name of the website, unless it's the same as the author. So there's some examples here, the BBC News or the Department of Conservation. Referencing 6 or more authors, it used to be 7 names you could put in a reference list, but now you can put up to 20 authors before you leave off the intervening authors. And yes, there are articles which are written by hundreds of people, but it used to drop off after 6 names and then you put the last name, and now you can put up to 20 authors. A big change with referencing for books, you no longer put the location of the publisher in the reference. It looks very strange to me, but those are the rules. And it's because the place of publication is not always the same. It can be an international publisher and you're not sure, do you put Melbourne or Delhi or Geneva or New York? You never know what place of publication to put. So they'd say, drop it, just put the publisher. If the author and publisher are the same, leave the publisher off. And so that makes an even weirder looking reference, but those are the rules. For ebooks, no longer include the platform or device, you just use the publisher. Check the manual or the website to see loads of examples on how to do this for ebooks. Tables and figures are now consistently formatted. The table and figure number are now both given above the table and figure or figure in bold, and the title appears on the next line, flush with the left margin, in italics with the major words capitalized in title case with no full stop. So they both appear the same way. It used to be tables were above, figures were below. So now they're both the same. That's a nice change. And a few words about inclusive and bias-free language. APA now endorses the singular they or their as a gender neutral pronoun. And instead of using an adjective as a noun to label groups of people, you use a descriptive phrase instead. Rather than saying the poor, blah, 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 you say people living in poverty. Another one is, rather than using broad categories to group people together, you should use their exact age ranges that are more relevant and specific. So rather than saying people over 65 years of age, you would say people in the age range of 65 to 75 years old. Again, the manual has a lot more guidance on writing in an inclusive and bias-free way. So here ends the update to the APA and a revision, reminders of some APA guidelines. The website for APA has many tutorials and handouts that are presently free and can be downloaded. I would advise you to take a look at the Academic Writer Quick Guides, which are online tutorials on various aspects of writing and referencing to help you learn APA style. Presently, these guides are free to be used. I don't know how much longer they will remain free for use. The manual is not expensive. It's available electronically and in several print formats: softback, hardback, spiral bound, and tabbed. So they've made it a lot more user-friendly. And of course, the librarians at the university are always ready and able to assist you to understand APA if you need any help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ballance. That was really a good session. I think there's a lot of information. I know it looks very technical for those who have not used Mendeley, but it's a matter of trying to use it and learning as you go. The slides will be given to all of you, so no worries. I see there's a lot of questions in the chat requesting whether the slides will be made available. Yes, this recording will be made available. The presentation will also be made available to you. So let me quickly run through some of the questions, a lot of questions on Mendeley. What were the 3 things you need to download for Mendeley management?
The 3 things are the Mendeley Desktop, which if you scroll down, you'll see the Mendeley Reference Manager. You can download that instead. If you do the desktop, then you also need to download the Mendeley Web Importer bookmarklet, which is a little icon which sits on the second ribbon on the top of your screen. So when you find a website that you like, you just click on it and it opens up the Mendeley and lets you download the item into your Mendeley library. And the third thing is the Citation plugin, which goes into your word processor. At the university, we do not have the administrative rights over our computer, so you just have to call the IT help desk, and they just log into your machine and fix it for you very quickly. Okay,
Right.
the 3 things: the desktop version, the bookmarklet, and the citation plugin.
Is the web version of Mendeley more advantageous than its desktop version?
The desktop version is your main version. Right now, I have to use exclusively the web version because my desktop is under lock and key at work. The desktop version has more elements than the web version. But I can still access all my articles. I can edit them, but there are a few things I can't do. But basically, I can do everything that I need to do.
For the APA style, is there still an author note on the cover page for student papers? And if so, is it a footnote? Question from Helen McPhee.
An author note. There's no author note for student papers. It's just the title, the names of the students.
Does it appear as a footnote then?
Then you give you give the university, the department, the university, the course number and name, and the professor's name and the date. I don't think an author note is included on a student paper. The author note usually just says where you work. Is that what she's referring to? For a professional paper, you list each name separately with their affiliation, one after another.
Okay. There's a question from Dr. Nicolette Bethel. How will students be able to find access to these changes? Where will they be able to consult the manual easily? Is it through the library?
Well, Dr. Bethel, I placed an order for copies of the manual for all libraries last October. The APA website has lots of guidance and help and examples. There are about 10 PDFs you can download and create like your own little manual because it has like a skeleton of everything, particularly for referencing. So that would be helpful too. And then someone has helpfully put the URL for the APA style on the chat.
Mm-hmm. In the chat, there's a lot of resources already provided on the APA. You have resources from Kendria Ferguson on the APA style.apa.org. And you also have some resources from Dr. Olivia Saunders. This is on the APA publication manual released on October 2019.
Yes, from the Purdue University OWL.
Yes.
Is fantastic, and they have updated all their handouts and everything. And that's always a good source to go to.
Do we have all these guides already linked, listed in the UB website or the LibGuides?
On the LibGuides, yes, we do. Yeah, we do. And I'm going to put up the new Mendeley one up. I'm going to update those as well.
Okay. Is there any more question? I don't see any more question. Anybody want to ask question directly? You can as well. You can raise your hand. I can unmute you, or you can put it in the chat, or you can email us if you have any further question. We will make this presentation accessible to all of you immediately after this session. as soon as we get the recording, we will actually email to all the participants that have registered for these sessions. We will have our next session on Friday, which is going to be focused on peer review and publication process. And then we'll have one more session next week before we conclude the 10 weeks Research Essential series. So it has been great having you all in this session. I hope you benefited in today's session. It's a bit more technical in today's session, but if you need any assistance, any refresher, or you're stuck in any process, especially in setting up your Mendeley account, do let us know and we will guide you accordingly. So if there's no further question, I would like to end our session today, and we hope to see you again on Friday at the same time, 12:30 p.m. You can use the same login ID to get in. If you have forgotten the ID, just look at the email in the past emails that we have that you got from us, and use the same ID. It's the same login ID for all the sessions, so no worries about it. All right then. So thank you once again. So I'll see you on Friday. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
All right then. Bye-bye.